I'm going to introduce you to Professor Newsy Wales.
Hello.
You need to be prepared for the Young Creators Conference, okay? I've talked to you a little bit about interviewing skills. I've talked to you a little bit about electricity and what you understand about it or don't understand about it. What we need to be able to do is do both of those things really well so that when we go into the Powerhouse Museum we can interview other people about it and have a really deep understanding. Because we're going to see if we can identify something that people have. What is that? Mishaps. Yeah, we might find some mishaps there as well. But misconceptions are the most important thing. Misunderstanding about stuff.
We're going to ask you some questions to try and find out where you're starting from. So how much you know already, so that you can teach us all of the things we don't know, because Mrs. Evans and I, we don't know very much. We're expecting that you're going to tell us everything. So how
I don't.
Okay. At the Powerhouse Museum, there will be approximately 10, 12, maybe as many as 15 groups of students from different schools. They're all going to be showing their beautiful machines and all of their coding and all of their, exciting computer stuff. But your primary aim is to interview these students from each of the schools to test their knowledge. So you're going to be almost like secret teachers for a day, right? Because most of them are going to be older than you. Most of them are going to be secondary school students. They're going to think that they know a lot more than you guys do. So what you're going to do is be very charming, and you're going to ask them questions that make it difficult for them, right? Just like some of your teachers might do, to ask you questions. The idea is not to show people up so that they look bad or don't look as if they know anything. Yeah. The idea is that by interviewing them, we make them think more deeply about what they're doing, and no one should know better than them what they're doing, but also to make it clear to them, to help them to learn more and understand more about what they're doing. So there's a number of different skills. One is you've got to be an interviewer, and you've got to know how to make videos and how to record audio. But the other thing is that you need to understand enough about what these people are doing to be able to ask them interesting questions, or questions that challenge them, or questions that make them explain something rather than just show something. They've got to explain how something works, okay?
If you are an interviewer, you will need to know the science.
Yeah.
If you are behind the camera, you won't have to have as finely tuned.
So, does everybody understand, based on what Mrs. Evans has already told you, about what you need to be doing?
Yeah.
Is there anyone who doesn't want to do this?
No?
Just asking. I thought I would ask before we go into
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. Okay.
The three things that we're going to look at that these projects have in common, the people that you're going to interview, they will all have these three things. That's electricity, circuits, and switches. Right? So what we want to do is to find out what you know about those three things. So let's start with electricity. So who doesn't know anything about electricity? So we're all experts. Who thinks?
We know a little bit. Like there's that much to learn, and we're like there.
Yeah. I wouldn't call us experts.
You wouldn't call yourselves experts. Okay. So who is going to tell me what electricity is?
Something. Well, it could be something that powers.
You'll all get a chance.
What electricity is, or like how?
Isn't it like a source of energy? Yeah. It's
like
a type of energy, and there's different types of electricity. I've researched this before. sustainable?
No, it's like, I don't know, I can't remember.
So that screen, okay. So does that depend on electricity to make that?
Not
completely.
What would
Not
happen?
completely.
Would that monitor work if there were no electricity going?
Not very well.
No? Okay. So it needs electricity to do something. Yeah? Firstly, where does the electricity come from for that monitor? Yeah? What do you
Is
think?
it through the cord? Like, to the...
Through the cord. So this is, let's just say that this is, so what you're talking about is a cable, right?
Yeah,
So you're talking an electrical cable, right? So the kind of things that plug into the wall, yeah? So where does the electricity come from that gets to that cable? How does it get to the wall?
It goes to
the switchboard.
behind the wall.
Switchboard. How does it get to the switchboard? Where's it come from?
Traveling through the
So
I can't remember.
power lines. Power lines.
No, not like to get to the switchboard.
Yeah.
No, the inside the cable. I can't remember what it is. It's like.
But if you look at the physical location, what places does the electricity come from to get to this school? Yeah.
So does it go like from power lines, and from there it comes
So how's it get to the power lines? How's it get to the power
from
lines?
generators?
From the generators.
Yeah.
How does it get to the generators?
Through
Factories.
like. No,
Generate the electricity.
It could come
Does it have
from
something to do with
dams.
the air current, airwaves, air current kind of thing?
Do we know what generators are?
Generate electricity.
They generate electricity, is that what you think?
Well,
Yes.
they
Who
kind of
thinks
like
that a generator generates electricity? Put your hand up if you think the generator generates electricity. Okay, so maybe half of you. So for those of you who don't think that generators generate electricity, where do you think electricity comes from?
it can come from like loads of different places. I think not just one source.
Yeah.
Like you
Name
can harness
one.
it from like
Name one place.
running water.
From running
Gas.
water.
Wind
Yeah.
turbines,
solar
solar
panels.
panels. Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if you look at water, right?
Yeah.
The electricity doesn't come from the water.
Yeah.
What does the water do?
It goes through some sort of like a dam,
Yeah.
special sort of dam,
And as it flows through, what does it do?
the speed of it.
Electricity, like is it a wind
Electricity
turbine?
A
Yeah.
turbine
Yeah.
is kind of another kind of something beginning with G. A turbine.
Generator?
A generator. So what you're talking about is a wind generator. A wind
Yeah.
turbine is a wind generator. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though you don't really know what I'm talking about, I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're agreeing with me. Okay. So does the generator make electricity? Who thinks the generator makes electricity?
think it-
No matter whether it's from wind or from water or from coal.
I
or
don't think
from...
it makes
It has to,
electricity.
the flow of the electricity has to go into the generator and then it gets sort of like
Transformed.
processed into
Yeah.
something that could be used to power a laptop or
Okay.
I think it doesn't. I think electricity has a raw form, and then when it's like kind of harnessed by the generator or the and then it creates what we know as electricity.
Okay.
and how it's just a plain piece of coal like using electricity.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it has to be
It has to be burned.
It has to be
Okay.
processed.
So I'm going to go very quickly here, right? I'm going to come back to generators in a minute. But before we get there, you know how we've gone back. So we started here and we went back, right? We got to the generator. So a generator needs something to make it work. So if we go back a step further, whether it's coal, whether it's wind, whether it's atomic energy, or water, where does that energy come from that is delivered by the coal or the water? Where does it come from? Yeah?
Protons and atoms.
Protons and atoms?
Neurons.
Neurons and electrons.
Yeah, we talk about physical locations, right? So we went, which physical location does the stuff come from?
The ground.
From the ground, yeah, but from lightning.
Sometimes.
But if you look at water, if you look at the wind, right? If you look at heat energy, where do all of these come from? Where's that energy come from?
A gas.
and the sky.
A gas. Like
Planet Earth.
Back further. Go back further.
The weather. The solar system. The universe.
The sun.
Well, you're doing better. Where does energy come from?
oh no, thank you.
Oh, the sun. Yeah.
From the sun.
Is that right? Is that?
Well, you tell me.
Gases?
Can you think of anything that we get electricity from that doesn't start from the sun?
Wind turbines.
Wind.
What,
Like oh yeah, but that.
how do you know what makes the wind blow?
The moon.
Yeah.
The sun.
No,
Isn't it the moon?
Wind.
I know what it is, but I can't.
No.
Okay, well I'm going to leave you guys to think about that, right? But there's a general thing that we've learned here, okay, is that what you're doing is constantly you're pushing back all the time. Instead of saying it comes from this cord or that it comes from the power board or the lines or whatever, what we're learning to do is to look back at where it really comes from. Because it's true that electricity does come through that cable. It's true that it does come through the power board, that it comes through the lines. But if we keep asking the questions, where does that come from? Where does that come from? Then what we do is we get to a bigger and bigger and bigger and a more important explanation. So saying that energy comes from the sun is a much bigger, much stronger answer than to saying it comes from the cable. Do you get that?
Yeah.
So if you understand how the sun works, what would you understand? Just bear with me for a minute. If you understand how the sun works, right, you will also understand how all of the other things work, including the way that the stuff comes through the cables and everything as well. But if you only understand the way the stuff that comes through the cables works, then it's going to be very difficult for you to understand how the sun works. So it's another thing about going back to the origin of things is if you understand the big things, then what you will also do is understand the little things. But if you understand the little things, it's much harder for you to understand the big things, right?